Barry's getting us up and going. Go ahead and open your microphone or put your unique things in the chat box for us.
Well, hey, Lori, this is Chris Rasmussen, and I'm looking at
Hey,
my desk.
uh-huh.
I have a Snoopy,
Okay.
and I was given him as a gift, and he occasionally goes on trips with me and makes it into pictures so people can see where
Oh,
Snoopy went.
that's
And
adorable. Yeah, what else?
I have a snow globe of a place that I never got to go to.
Okay.
It's Disney World, and I'd love to go. And I think that's about as interesting as it gets.
Oh, hey, those were fun. During our practice session, we all shared a little bit too. So we all have to have those personal effects on our desk,
hmm
most certainly. So thanks for
I
sharing, Chris.
have a plant that's trying to die. Not
I'd
Yeah.
gonna
like
die.
to know what you guys have on your desks.
Well, I kind of shared mine. I always have um, like hand lotion or maybe um, a lip gloss of some sort on my desk. That's about as exciting as mine get beyond what I shared, the toy soldier and the tiny potato, which is a story in itself. But yeah, what else does somebody have?
I have a little pig and a little goat on my desk. So, as well as the dying plant.
What's the story behind the animals?
Um, I I have a granddaughter whose other grandma is Grandma Nanny because she raises show goats, and so they always have goats around. And I made them May baskets last year and so I put goats in hers, and we usually have show pigs at our house for fair, but this is the first year in 16 years we haven't. So we always have goats or pigs at our house, and so our grandkids love to go out and play with the pigs. So then the other grandkids got pigs in their baskets. And these were the two leftovers. And it's amazing how many times we'll have kids come in my office and I hand them those and they'll play with them.
That's cool.
Yeah, they are fun to see. What else does somebody want to share as we lead up to our 2 o'clock start time this afternoon?
I think everybody's a little slow today. We're all thinking, oh, why isn't it Friday and we're closed or something like that.
I was just gonna say, I can't believe David hasn't like shown us something crazy.
Are you calling him out, Megan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's usually not this quiet.
Why would I have anything unique on my desk?
I, I I'm just saying you're a unique fella. I
Okay,
knew it.
just because you said that,
Oh, what is it?
it was a gift from my old assistant when he went on vacation. It's like a little bear sculpture. So,
Oh, cool. Yeah. It's just essential to have those personal effects surrounding us, I think. So,
well, and it just proves to Megan that somebody out there actually likes me.
Oh, David, we all love you.
a story unto itself, no doubt. So, well, we're going to take another minute or two to get started as people continue to join us. I know that there are always calls for our time, so and Zoom has made it possible to literally zoom into a room just as a meeting or something is starting. So we'll give them another minute or so. But even as you join, if you'd like to enter a chat in the chat box to answer our icebreaker question for today, we'd love to get to know you better.
Megan, I will tell you this, that I should be in Arizona right now, not sitting at this Zoom meeting. I was supposed to be on vacation this week.
But you stayed just so you could hear my presentation?
My wife decided I needed to be Nurse Ratchet. She had major surgery and I had to take care of her the last 2 weeks.
Oh, I think I did know that. Is she doing okay?
Yeah, she's doing pretty good. So
Good. Oh,
not
you poor
not
guy.
because of me.
I'm sure
That's
you're
good
taking
news.
good care of her.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and get started. We'll let others continue to join us, but just welcome and thank you to all of you who are joining us online for the April 2025 edition of HomeNE. This is, I believe, if I counted correctly, our 79th webinar in the series that started back in February of 2018. My name is Lori Ferguson. I'm with South Central Economic Development District. So if you're joining us for the very first time, as I saw some new faces on the registration list, a special welcome to you. South Central Economic Development District is the lead agent for the HomeNE organization, which is the HomeNE is a statewide learning network that was created 8-9 years ago, which is designed for all people across Nebraska and even beyond our borders. We continue to grow as a network, and that is really a testament to all of you who join us on a faithful basis. The stats on your screen there are actually a little old. They're as of February of 2025, but you can see the growth and just the numbers of individuals that have joined us since we started back in, as I said, 2018. So thanks for taking time out of your day today. I'm really looking forward to having Megan join us and present to us today. So just a little bit about the purpose of HomeNE if you are fairly new. It's designed to foster interaction, engagement, and skill building among all of the participants. We come from different corners of the state and different regions of the state, and so it brings us all together for at least 1 hour a month to discuss and to review what's going on in the housing arena around the state and in our different communities. And it's also intended to empower and encourage each of you as a participant. Maybe you won't be able to do exactly what Megan shares with us today, but hopefully you'll find and hear something in her presentation that you can take and apply in your community as well. So I'm looking forward to the next few moments with Megan. So she maybe sounds familiar to you. And if you've been with HomeNE for quite a while, that's probably not a mistake because she has been a previous participant. She had presented in October of 2021, I believe. And you know, when Megan presents, she always has really interesting topic titles. Back in 2021, she did a roller coaster theme about rural workforce housing. So when I saw her title for today's presentation, I thought, what a great time to revisit what's going on in Wakefield from back when she did her initial presentation to today. A lot has happened. So thank you, Megan, for joining us and welcome to HomeNE. So before you begin, would you just share a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I am Megan Weaver, and I am the executive director of Wakefield Progressive, which is our economic development office in Wakefield. I am also the director of NEHI, which stands for Northeast Housing Initiative, and that's our housing nonprofit arm of Wakefield Progressive. It was a standalone agency for many, many years, but as many of you probably know, that it's hard to fund nonprofits and find people that are willing to work in it. So we merged the two organizations. So we'll go ahead and kind of get started here. And you know, as we're sitting here, we're talking about housing hangovers. I realized that if you look up here, there's a bottle of Jack Daniels back there. And I promise I am not drinking on the job. It's part of, we did a spring promotion with like people put their names in for a drawing for items donated by our local businesses, and the bar did donate some Jack Daniels. So it's just timing, I guess, that I'm giving a presentation on housing hangovers. So when we talk about a housing hangover, I feel like it's because I'm in one right now. When you've had a lot of success in whether it's housing, economic development, community development, sometimes it's oh gosh, how do we get on to the next project? That was a really cool thing, and now how do we top that? Gosh, I only did a little rehab project, not a $14 million project. And so that's what we're gonna kind of talk about today, is just how to keep that momentum rolling and keeping our community engaged, and hoping to hear from you guys a little bit on that too. So a little more about me. Like I said, I am the director for Wakefield Progressive and NEHI. I have been doing housing for a little over 12 years. We have done just about everything. We've done purchase, rehab, resale. We have done owner occupied rehab, new construction, rental rehab, substantial rehab, upper story housing. If it's out there, a lot of times we're willing to try it and see if we can make it work in our community or in the communities we serve through NEHI. I also was a part of a downtown revitalization program, which is actually more of a commercial revitalization program. It's independent. We weren't able to get any grant funding like through the CDBG or anything like that. And through our Community Redevelopment Authority, we've invested over $1 million in facade improvements in downtown and the commercial districts of Wakefield. And through that, we realized that, we've done a lot for our commercial properties, but how could we help our residential property owners? And we developed Paint the Town, which I should back up. We did not create that. We stole it from a town in Iowa. And so what it is we will purchase all of the supplies, the paint, the primer, the paint brushes, rollers, whatever they need to property owners to paint their house. The hope is that we've got some positive peer pressure. If your neighbor paints their house and you didn't even think it looked bad, and now it looks really good, you think, gosh, maybe I better spruce mine up a little bit. The average project is about $2,000, and we budget $10,000 a year for it. So we're able to help about five households with those exterior improvements. We have 3 that we're working on so far this year, and it's early, so we hope to get some more applications for that coming up. Okay, next slide, please. All right, my first time using Menti. So I would encourage you guys to grab your phones and scan the QR code and let me know if you have ever experienced a housing hangover. Again, it can be just like, boy, I'm running out of ideas. Nothing's working. What do we do? People aren't listening. I've got a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of negativity in the community along the lines of housing. And let's kind of see where we're at. How many people are experiencing that? And it looks like I'm not going to get live updates on that. So, okay, just give me a thumbs up. Do you guys know how to do that on Zoom? If you've had experienced this, it was a good effort on the Menti, just, poor execution on my part.
Yeah, maybe just put a thumbs up in the chat box to give her an idea of your response, if you would.
Yeah. Well, at least Sherry has. So we're in the same boat. So thank you, Stacy. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started here. I'm glad I'm not the only one. You know, when you have been doing this for a while, it is easy for us to I think fall into a little bit of, oh God, I just don't know what to do next. I'm not sure how to move forward from this. So we're gonna talk a little bit today about um, where the community of Wakefield was. Oh, sorry, Sherry, were you okay? We're good. Where the community was in 2013 when we got here, where we got to by 2023, 2025, and where we're going, where we hope to go. And hopefully you guys can also give insights like, have you been in a housing slump and had to try to convince your community leaders that you need to continue with this, even though it feels like housing has been an issue for forever. Um, HomeNE, the best part about it is that even though we're virtual, it is a great networking opportunity. So I encourage you guys to use the chat box, put in your thoughts, you know, if you've got any experiences, your questions, and we'll get to that at the end. Or if I see something pop up, I may stop and go ahead and answer that. Next slide, please. So I want to preface this slide with the fact that the ACS data seems a little skewed to me. So in 2013, it said we had 696 total housing units. Then it says in 2023, we were down to 444. I was here. I lived here that entire time, and I can assure you that we did not demolish or convert, you know, multifamily into single family 250 units. Um, so, you know, I know there's some averages and there's some, you know, margins of error in there, but it's just interesting the discrepancy in the 10 years. So, but we use the data we have and we go from there. The one thing I won't dispute is that in 2013, 99% of our homes were built prior to 2000. Again, that was not without lack of trying and, you know, housing studies supporting the need for housing. We just didn't have the interest in investing in housing in our community at that time. I don't know if you guys remember, but 12 years ago, the median house price was almost 70,000. I I looked because I thought, okay, 2023, they went up to 110. The ACS data isn't out yet for 24, but I'm like, I know it had to have increased. So I took a look at Zillow and it said that the median home value is $188,000 for Wakefield. That I don't know, that would not have been affordable to me when I was a first-time home buyer. But it is what it is. The cost of everything's going up. So, but in 2023, we were making progress because 93% of the homes were built prior to 2000, not 99%. So we're going to talk about this project that's pictured here in just a minute in the next slide. But this was part of the thing that kind of I guess it had me at my peak. So we'll talk about that soon. So over the 12 years, from 2013 to 2025, so a lot of things happened, and a lot of people worked towards these projects. Wakefield, we were able to get workforce housing grants in 2018, and I did make a mistake on this. It was 2022, not 2021. And through that revolving loan fund, we've been able to do 7 new single-family homes. We loaned out on a triplex, and we've done 13 substantial rehab projects. And substantial rehab is extremely important, I think, to rural communities because we have to protect and improve the housing stock we have. As you'll see, we have a land problem in Wakefield, and so sometimes that's our only option. One of our projects, our substantial rehab project, was over $200,000. And I know that sounds crazy because you're thinking, oh, a new roof, you know, a new front porch, things like that. But this family was an empty nest family. They had an adult handicapped daughter living with them. And then their other adult daughter and their grandson decided to move back. The house did not have a basement. They were definitely afraid of storms. They looked for other houses to purchase in the community, but everything was well outside of their price range. And so when they came to me, we put together a plan to do an addition and to put in a new foundation and essentially build them a brand new house around what they already had. So they already have equity in that. It's a really cool project. Everybody is happy because they've got their own rooms. And if we get the bad weather like they're predicting, they have a place to go to be safe. So in addition, the Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Funds, we were awarded 2 separate grants for one for an upper story housing project, which is the one that is in the bottom right of the slide. That is on the major corner of our main street. The upper story had been vacant for decades. It had a semi-quasi apartment in it, but nobody can tell me when it was last actually occupied. So they came in, a local family here, and purchased the building. It was actually owned by the city, and were able to put in 4 new units in the upper story, 1 1-bedroom, 2 2-bedroom, and 1 3-bedroom. And they've had no issues with occupancy. The other project, we saw it on the previous slide, is in the top right, and that is our 60-unit apartment complex in a town of, people dispute this, 2,000 people. You know, to build 60 new apartments was a little risky. We were lucky to find a developer that I was able to give too much Jack Daniels to and convince him that this was a good idea. No, I'm kidding. I didn't. But they came in and they built these, and people question us every step of the way. Why do we need 60 units? Are people even going to be able to afford this? You know, why would we do it on the other side of the highway? Why wouldn't, you know, all these things. And they have no problem with occupancy. They are 100% occupied. The interesting thing about this project was they partnered with Michael Foods. So if for some reason they do drop below a certain amount of occupied units, Michael Foods will help supplement that lost income for a certain amount of time or until they get occupied. Other things we did, we began a rental property registry and a rental inspection program. The goal was to, again, improve the status of the properties. We have a lot of overcrowding, and we have people living in spaces that are not meant to be lived in. Garages, sheds, basements with, you know, your tiny little windows or block windows. And so we're really working on trying to get those done. The city council last night had this on their agenda to talk about the status of the rental inspection program, because it's gotten a little overwhelming for our city staff. and they're looking to hire somebody from outside to help with that, because it is a process. You inspect it, you make the citations, and then you have to re-inspect it. If it doesn't pass, you do the same process. So it's time consuming. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that people are living in safe housing and not, I don't think any of us want to have to go, gosh darn it, if we only we had inspected that unit if something were to happen. So the other thing was we began a vacant property registry. The thought behind it, and I'm sure some of you have done this in your communities and maybe had a little more success. We just started this about a year ago, and we were hoping that it would encourage those property owners to sell, um, rehab it, move back in, rent it, something, demo it. Some of the houses are not in any condition to be lived in. Um, and we haven't seen that yet. We have had one property out of the 25 that has been again vacant for decades, was being used kind of more as just a storage unit. That they did end up selling, and the property is now part of our substantial rehab projects through the workforce housing program. So we're excited to see that. The basement had caved in, so it's going to get a new foundation, everything, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, roof, windows, all of it. So it'll be a really nice home for somebody in the future. But beyond what the city's done, the CRA, Wakefield Progressive, is just the private investment. Something clicked, probably the low interest rates, that helped, but we have built 17 single-family homes since 2013. Again, depending on where you're from and where you work in, that may not sound like a lot, but to our community, that was. We filled up 2 of our small new subdivisions, within a matter of 3-4 years. When we'd had one previously that sat for 10 without a house being built. So the houses have ranged in value from 250,000 to, over $750,000. And obviously those $250,000 houses were built much earlier in the process. I don't know that we can build much for 250 anymore. So, but yeah, we've had a lot of success. So where do we go from this? I mean, we go from having 60 units built, a $14 million project, another $1 million project in our downtown that, we had the governor here, the news was here, we did all these good things. And then it's like, what's next? What are we gonna do? Because we can't do that every day. We can't do that every year. And so we had to kind of come off of that high, that peak, and figure out where we go. As of today, there is not a single parcel available for residential development in Wakefield. If somebody, and as a matter of fact, it happened. I had somebody call 2 weeks ago, and they had a house that they wanted to move into Wakefield. Would have been a perfect fit for one of our infill lots if we had it. Do a new basement, garage, all the remodeling, that kind of stuff. And I had to tell them we didn't have anywhere for them to go. So, they went to a neighboring community, which we all need housing. So I'm glad they were able to find a spot, but I wanted to keep them here. I wanted to see that investment in Wakefield. And after all of this has happened, we get the question, do we even need more housing? Who would even buy it if we built it? We have 60 new units. So do we need more rentals? All of those questions get brought up, and sometimes by surprising people that are usually a little more progressive, forward thinking. And it, again, it can kind of make your head hurt a little bit. Um, you can use your housing study to show, that yes, we do still need it. It tells us we still need it. Plus, we have our own personal experiences that, we constantly get phone calls about, do you have any homes for sale? Where can we build? We want to do this or that. And it's hard for us to have to say no, because we know we can't grow our community if we don't grow our housing market. But at this time, the property owners that surround Wakefield, the private property owners, are not interested in selling any land. So where do we go? What do we do? And even if we're able to find something, who's going to be responsible for buying it and developing that? We again, and I'm sure in other rural communities you're hearing this is, well, it shouldn't be the city's responsibility. Why does the city have to be involved? Why can't a developer come in? Because it's risky. We've had one go bankrupt trying to do it, and we've had others that have been successful, but they weren't able to do it by themselves either. So we got to look at some other options. If we can't get more land outside of the city limits, we have to look within. So, how do we work within the confines of our city limits? So we're looking at and trying to figure out like where to go next. So this next slide, I have a question mark behind the word creative. Next slide, please, Sherry. Did she fall asleep on us? There we go. Thank you. So like I said, I have a question mark behind this because I don't feel like I'm coming up with anything real creative. I feel like it's a lot of the same things that we're trying to do, but even as I was putting this presentation together, like I started to get over my hangover. I started to get more excited about the challenges this is presenting. Like, okay, I really do. I've got plenty of work to do here. I I can do all of these things. I can try to push and research and do these things. So I'm thankful to HomeNE for helping me get out of my slump, and so that we can keep working towards solutions, because housing issues do not stop. They continue. They just maybe change a little bit. So the picture here that we have is of a building downtown Wakefield. As you can see, it was rental units on both the main floor and the upper story. The owner was grandfathered in so that he was able to have apartments on the main floor. We no longer allow that in our commercial district. When they did the rental inspection, they found so many issues that in order for him to get it up to par, it was going to cost him a lot of money. There was pests, there was leaky roofs, there was no heat in the units. It's hard to, I mean, and he was getting paid money for people to live there. So at the end of the day, he decided it wasn't worth his time or money to make the changes that were found in the rental inspection, and he did sell it to the Wakefield Community Redevelopment Authority. We have since demoed part of the building because it was in such disrepair, and are currently looking for somebody to take it on as a redevelopment project. Um, Again, as we talk about upper story housing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be rental. I would love to see somebody buy this building, live upstairs, and have their business downstairs. I just think that creates a different vibe in your downtown when you have some business owners living there also. But you know, that's a pretty individualized request on my part. I don't know that that's realistic, but it would be pretty cool. We are also looking at trying to do accessory dwelling units, but we have some prohibitive zoning regs that may not allow that. And I think it's important for us to explore this because we have a lot of families that are living with multiple generations. And you know, what do you do with a college kid that can't afford the rents that are out there that are, you know, $1,700 a month? And put them out in the garage apartment. They'll be thrilled. Especially if they only have to pay $250 a month or whatever. So I do think that that is something we need to look into. We also have some ag land that is within our city limits. And that is becoming more difficult for the producers because things have been building up around that ag land and equipment has gotten bigger and it's harder for them to access that land. You know, that wasn't done on purpose by any means, but it could work in our favor when we approach them to maybe negotiate, hey, you know what, we can take this off your hands for a pretty good price and we can put houses there, whatever, and you're helping the community. Something I again, these presentations are so good for us. When I was doing this, I'm like, I have to do better, is using microTIF. We have used it once in Wakefield in the past 5 years, and it's out there. It's why shouldn't somebody use it? If they meet all the guidelines, they should take advantage. Property taxes are not going down, or at least not here. So they might as well kind of get, I don't want to say a reward for making the investment in their home, but you know, feel like it's not the burden. Like what I'm trying to say is it's frustrating to property owners sometimes. We make an improvement and we get it on the back end with, oh, guess what? Good job. Now we're going to charge you more. So you know, this is kind of a way to help lessen that shock, I guess. Infill development, again, not anything new. We've been doing it here, but the the zoning, that's where we have to go back, is sometimes it's prohibitive. If you're on a corner lot and you have 25-foot setbacks on two sides and it's only a 50 by 50 lot, which we have some of those, it's difficult to build something there. It can be done, and we have to be more creative and open-minded to what we're building. But it would help if we could have those conversations with our zoning commission to maybe have a little more flexibility on those infill lots. Go ahead, Sherry. So I am wondering, you guys, please feel free to take yourself off mute and talk, throw something in the chat. But how do you keep the community engaged and wanting to move forward and even keep yourself motivated to continue to do what you're doing? Because again, housing is that issue is not going away. So how do you keep going? How do you keep motivated to do that?
Anybody have anything that they want to share with Megan that we can all learn from?
Just because you called me out, Megan, I'm going to speak up.
Thank you.
So the thing that I think of originally is that the more input we can get from the community, the less creative we have to be. So we're one person. If we can get our community leaders, our community members to speak up and say things, it helps us a lot, especially if there's things out there that we're not aware of. So communication with the community is what I would say.
I would definitely agree with that. You know, making sure that we are listening and, um, you know, talking to the people that know. Um, you know, we meet with the ministerium to find out what some of our maybe lower income and income restricted households are, what struggles they're having. You know, we are constantly on the phones with our lenders and, um, you know, just to kind of gauge, I guess, gauge the temperature of housing right now. What are people looking for? Um, I we are right now, we have 5 houses for sale in Wakefield, and that has not happened for at least 5 years. And they've been on the market for longer than 3 days. Um, I talked to 2 lenders yesterday, and they both said they have no applicants. They have no active loan applications. That's a little scary because, you know, we know things are changing right now, and they're changing pretty rapidly. But you know, it's like, man, gosh, if people aren't buying, then do we need to look at doing rehab? Again, do we need to change our mindset that, maybe it's not like I said, purchase, rehab, resale, but it's more owner occupied rehab. So, I see somebody asked about the tenants of that building. They stayed in the building. We were able to fix some of the issues. And we just through attrition, you know, when one left, we did not backfill that apartment because we did not want to displace anyone. Um, the timing of it was good for the fact that we knew we had some new units, so we did have a place for them to go if they chose. Um, we definitely, like, I hope you guys know, we did not displace anybody because that is never our goal. Are there
Megan,
other
you said that
questions?
Megan, you said that you've spoken to the lenders and the developers and all that. Maybe it's time for a town hall and let them tell you about their priorities because they're your community there. And you know, you could facilitate a workshop. Lori Ferguson is really good at that. Facilitate a workshop where they set their priorities for their community.
I think
Just a thought.
that's a fabulous idea. We haven't done a lot of town hall type meetings for probably since about 2015 because that's when we did our last comp plan. Um, and so I think you're right. I think that's a great suggestion to really, and not just for housing, but community and economic development too. And that helps all of us kind of set our goals. So great idea, Sherry. Thank you.
Megan, I'm going to add to what Sherry said too. Cliff Messner, I think it was a year and a half ago, gave one of the HomeNE things, and he talked about how the families are changing within, you know, the world and stuff. You no longer, a lot of times you don't have the, you know, mother and father at home with all of the kids. You may have the father in a separate unit and the mom in a separate unit, and then they switch kids back and forth. And that was probably the biggest aha moment for me because I still was thinking, and a lot of our developers here in Columbus think we need to build that 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home with a 2-car garage and all of that. And what we found out here in Columbus is that's not what the community needs. That's not what they want. So, you know, going back and talking to your community is probably one of the best things you can do.
And did you come to that conclusion like through a housing study? Did you guys do town halls? How did you come to that conclusion?
We actually, Columbus has a housing committee that is set up through our chamber. On the housing committee is chamber members, city people, our economic development people, our realtors, a few of our realtors come in, our bankers come in, and it's just through those conversations that we realized it. And then we did put out a survey on what people that were looking for housing, what they were looking for.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Expect in, doing both, doing like a town hall plus, having those people be your champions to help. Because I mean, we can send out a survey, but if we don't have people out there saying, "Hey, don't forget to take that survey. We really need your information." If you only get 50 back, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard
great.
sometimes.
Yes, yes. But I think that is a very, very good point that, you know, our family dynamics are changing and our community demographics are changing. So, yeah, and sometimes we think we know, but we don't know.
Well, and I think talking to your employers too is important, because if they have job openings, who are they trying to recruit? Are they trying to recruit young professionals who maybe are just fresh out of school? Those, people are used to being in college. They're used to having an apartment. They don't necessarily want to jump into the housing market right now or into purchasing a home right now, because they don't know if they're going to stay there.
Right.
And so even talking to your employers could be a huge help for you.
Agreed.
I was just going to add, we had a community in the region that did a housing study, and it showed that what they needed the most was a 1-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. Now I can understand the 3-bedroom, but I would be curious about the 1-bedroom. And I think that kind of lends itself to what Jean was saying, that young professional doesn't want a lot to maintain, maybe doesn't have the financial means to maintain a home, but that 1-bedroom really caught me by surprise, because you just tend to gravitate towards that 2-3 bedroom, for a family. So yeah, what Cliff said a couple years ago or a year and a half ago was just really eye-opening, and kind of drives what maybe he's doing now in the housing field. That mixed use or mixed numbers of units, as opposed to all 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So yeah, great conversation. How else can we help Megan with her housing hangover here?
Well, I've got a question for her. On her upper level that you used, Affordable Housing Trust Fund, the people that bought that and used the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, did they have to put up the match, or how did that work with that?
So we did not have match on that grant. They obviously put in their own funds too. It ended up being just a little over $1 million project. So they did have money and match into it just for the grant application. And Lynn, I think I saw Lynn on here, and I know Chris is on here. I think it's still this way, but the nonprofit had to be the one to make the match. And I think they were a little leery to hand over 50 grand to me. And I keep it for safekeeping, to be used. But it like they definitely had owner's equity into the project. We just didn't have official match.
And I got called out a minute ago on my phone. Christine Rasmussen called me to tell you about our demo grant.
Oh, yes.
We have a demo grant through our office that we pay 50% of the demo, up to $5,000 for residential and $15,000 for commercial. And we have funded through a foundation, but if you kind of funds, there may be multiple properties in your area that could be demoed to open up a lot for a new home.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that's been something I've been approached about is actually just on Monday, I had a gal come in here. She's like, Mom and Dad's house, we can't save it. It's too damaged. But it's gonna cost 30,000 to take it down. I'm like, ooh, okay. She's like, is there any way you could help us with that? I'm like, I don't know. So I will look in. I wonder if we could maybe use some LB 840 money for that.
You can. You can
Okay.
use LB 840 money for it because you can consider it economic development and workforce housing. So
Yep.
yes, you can.
Okay.
You can look on our website and find the demo app. And I'm not saying you got to anything else, just for information. So
Well, I don't want to recreate it, so I'm going to definitely steal it.
I'm giving you permission to steal it.
Okay,
Now
thank you.
we call that rob and
Rob and
duplicate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, David, would you mind putting your website for that information in the chat box for others who might be interested in knowing more about your demo program?
Sure. Give me a few minutes.
Sure.
I'm not Megan. I'm not quick with the tech.
That's okay. So great conversation. And this is really the purpose of HomeNE, coming together to share ideas and bounce ideas off of one another. And as I mentioned in our beginning, it doesn't mean you can do everything exactly like Megan and maybe David are doing, but you can take pieces of it and craft it to fit your situation. So great conversation. What other questions? I've got a couple questions, but I want to get your questions posed to Megan here before we move on. I had somebody ask me privately before they had to log off. I think it came up when you were talking about vacant property registries. Have you looked into a land bank or considered a land bank?
We, again, it was probably, gosh, it's been a few years ago, and we talked about it. We had a mayor that was really excited about the land bank possibilities. Um, and we've not really pursued that since he's not there to kind of spearhead it. I would love to know if there's any small communities, because I think Falls City, they might have a land bank. I know Chris Rasmussen, I just saw it on her. She made a great list of some resources. And maybe Chris, you can take a look at that and speak up. But I would love to know how other rural communities have done land banks. If anybody has any suggestions.
I don't believe that a lot of the smaller communities are doing that. It would actually work for a region or better for a region. Norfolk is probably one of the newer ones, and they're still pretty new, getting things set up. But the information that I had sent out to you, that we're going to be sharing with everyone pretty quick here, it does have the steps on what it takes to build a land bank. But the Omaha Land Bank, there's one by, I think it was Falls City. They would be good resources to pull on if you're interested in finding out how it works or how they make theirs work.
Great, thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Megan, what do you have left here to share with us?
I think that's everything.
Okay. I think we've got a contact slide here before we get into a formal Q&A. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, this is Megan's contact information. So feel free to reach out to her. A couple questions that came to mind. What kind of pushback did you get from your landlords on the rental property registry?
Some of them were like, fine, come in, come check it out, Others that had things to hide were a little more reluctant. And so you kind of have to, again, in a small town, you know who those property owners are. Not that we can't all figure it out, but we know which houses are being rented. And like I said, their spaces that aren't meant for residential use are being used in that manner. So, sometimes the city would just make a phone call and say, hey, we're coming to do the rental inspection. Um, I'm really excited to see if they can get somebody hired, a third party to help with that, because like I said, I feel like it's a really important piece. And if we can provide some safe housing, better housing for some of our residents, that's really important.
Okay, great. So, and then you talked about Michael Foods would supplement some of the rents.
Yep.
Recently, we had a community reach out for just that type of information. What can you share how that worked?
So it is just with the one property, the Logan Creek Apartments, but they work together. The plant manager of Michael Foods, I mean, it took a lot of convincing of the higher ups, the corporate officials to accept this and go with it, but they knew that if they didn't, it was only going to hurt them, because they at the time were having a really difficult time of recruiting, whether it was an hourly employee, or even like they had a director of HR, and people weren't applying for those positions, so they knew they had to do something. So what they do in this case is those tenants do not have to pay any deposits for any of their utilities there, which is a big upfront cost that can be prohibitive. And they also don't have to pay the rental deposit that is covered by Michael Foods. So again, it incentivizes them to live in Wakefield and not someplace else.
Okay, great, great. Additional questions or thoughts for Megan? Or Megan, do you have a challenge for us?
I don't know. You're not supposed to put me on the spot, Lori. Like I said, if anybody wants to kind of talk through what's going on in their community, sometimes it's easier for us to provide some solutions when it's not in our backyard. We can. I don't know. So if anybody wants to talk, share ideas, vent, I'm always up for a good vent session. Um, email, call. I'm more than happy to help how I can. So
Great, wonderful. So, yeah,
Megan,
and
I think you have a path forward with a community needs assessment, and then
Yep.
do a town hall and present those results and say, okay, this is what you said. How are we going to do it? I know we do them in our district with our communities, where we have a town hall afterwards, and then we put them in, they choose where they want to go, what project they would like to work on, or what issue they would like to work on, and then you've got leaders there that can help you do it. It's not you having to do all the work.
Andrea Larson, did you hear that? She's our NENED planner. So
Sorry, Nenad.
No worries.
she needs more to do anyways, right?
Yeah, she does.
Oh, all the time. David doesn't keep me nearly busy enough.
well, I
Megan,
look
who's your
forward.
electrical provider?
That's a good question. We were with a company, and now we're changing. It's not MPPD though.
I say because NPPD is going to facilitate a couple community planning sessions for us here in Cumming County. So
Yeah, we've been having that conversation at the city office, that there's some other value that they bring to to the table. So yeah, I would love to be able to reach out to them and use their resources.
Well, I want to say thank you to Megan before we start to conclude here, and be sure and grab her contact information on your screen, and reach out to her directly. I think she would welcome and appreciate, as she's already said, just some feedback and some, have you thought about this type of conversation? So we used to say, and we don't say it often enough, but that we learn best when we learn together. And so feel free to reach out to her. So just a couple things before we conclude here. But I think we can go ahead and skip that. There you go. Has HomeNE brought energy and enthusiasm to your housing journey? We certainly hope so, that as you show up month after month, or occasionally, that you get a takeaway or an aha moment that you can take back to your community. So we'd love to know your story. Thanks to a couple of you, I was able to reach out to some people and get stories lined up for coming months here during HomeNE webinars. And so thank you for sharing stories or journeys that you know of, maybe not in your community, but in other communities around the state. So we just want to hear from you. Our contact information is there on your screen. So hopefully we're bringing energy and enthusiasm, as shown in that picture, to you and your community as you talk about housing. So this webinar will be on our HomeNE.us website, hopefully yet this afternoon. Sherry's very good about trying to get those posted right away. So feel free to search for that if there's something. We had a little bit of internet instability there, but I know we captured a lot of great information today. And next month's webinar is Thursday, May 15th, and our speaker next month has joined us. And so I'm going to turn it over to her for just a little bit of a sneak peek about what they're doing. And Jean from Columbus, would you share with us, please?
Yeah, I'm Jean Van Ypern. I'm the Planning and Economic Development Coordinator here in Columbus, Nebraska. And Columbus made national news about a month and a half ago when our city administrator traveled to Washington to give testimony regarding the housing issues that communities are facing today. And so next month, I'm going to be talking about how Columbus has worked to break down some of the barriers in housing in our community. And this includes changes to our local ordinances. I'll also touch on our workforce housing subdivision that the city is building right now, and also ways that we have found in Columbus that we are using to make our system more developer friendly. That's one of the things our local developers have told us, is that the system that we use actually helps them out and helps them reduce some of their costs, because we're doing things ahead of them submitting their plans and those types of things. So those are just some of the things I'll touch on next month. And so hope you'll join us.
Thanks, Jean. Looking forward to that. So it's been fun getting to know Jean through this process of her participation in HomeNE, but also getting that lined up for next month. So with that, are there any final thoughts or comments that anyone would like to share? Well, if not, once again, thank you to Megan for her time today and for sharing such great information. And I look forward to seeing all of you next month. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Have a good Easter.
You too. Take care. think recording is still on, Sherry. There you go. Okay. Okay, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Thank you. I can't get my live stream to stop. We're just gonna have to